right. Good morning, everybody. It is now 9 o'clock. I would like to call to order the Barrier Islands Government Council meeting for March 26th. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Welcome, everybody. I'd like to, we'll do the roll call, starting with myself, and we'll move to my left around the room. My name is David Will, and I am the mayor of Redington Beach.
Anne Marie Brooks. I am the mayor of Madeira Beach.
You're coming around with the microphone.
Good morning, Adriana Neves. I'm the town clerk for the town of Redington Beach.
Good morning, Sam Jenkins with SPC's Institute for Strategic Policy Solutions.
Thank you, Sam. Barry Rubin with the Pinellas Beaches Chamber of Commerce.
Heather Davidson with Pinellas Beaches Chamber of Commerce.
Daniel Glenn, Clear Vision Media.
Clint Belk, Fire Chief, Madeira Beach Fire Department.
Renee Rose, City Clerk, City of Bel Air Beach.
Ashley Jo Vanetti, Pinellas County Communications.
Good morning, Charlie Justice, Tampa Bay Beaches Chamber of Commerce.
Tina Porter, Town Administrator, Indian Shores.
Mike Howard, Counselor, Town of Indian Shores.
This is the most interesting microphone I've ever held. Fred Irwin, San Keys Civic Association.
Christy Herrick, resident Redington Shores.
Good morning, CJ Hoyt, Commissioner, Town of Redington Shores.
Carla Bowling, resident of Indian Shores.
Good morning, Simon Amesbury, Allow Homes South Tampa and Allow Homes Redington.
Morning, Rick Nagrabsky, Commissioner of North Redington Beach.
Good morning, Christopher Hollins, citizen, Paso Grove.
Good morning, Mike McLaughlin, Town Administrator, Redington Shores.
Good morning, Megan Blanchard, Tampa Bay Regional Planning Council.
John Messmore, North Redington Beach.
Mr. Messmore forgot to mention Sweet Sage, and also he is the gentleman who's provided all of the food for us this morning.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Megan Powers, Assistant to the City Manager, Madeira Beach.
Jay Super, North Redington Beach Mayor.
Diane Thashir, Mayor, Indian Shores.
Denise Hausberg, Mayor of Indian Rocks Beach.
Bruce Rector, Mayor of the City of Clearwater.
Good morning, everyone. Dave Gaddis, Mayor of the City of Bel Air Beach.
All right, excellent. Can we get an approval for our agenda, please?
Motion to approve.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. And can we get an approval of the minutes for our last meeting?
That one also.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Next up would be the treasurer's report. Mr. Gaddis, Mayor Gaddis.
All right. In the absence of a treasurer, I will be doing the report this morning for February 2025. Excuse me one second here. We had a beginning balance of $1,100.44. We had one debit of $61.25. I believe that was for a memento for, nope, I'm sorry, that one is not on here. $61.25, I don't see that particular, where that came out of.
Funds behind, is that the?
It was for February's expenditures.
Oh, okay, I got you. Leaving an ending balance of $1,039.19. We had one expenditure since then, which was $50.28, which was for the beautiful gift that was given to Mayor Bill Queen.
All right, can we get an approval of the treasurer's report?
Move to approve the treasurer's report.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, well then moving on, as you mentioned, Mayor Hendrickson has resigned and is no longer our treasurer, so we need to appoint a new person to be our treasurer. So
Do we have any nominees or volunteers from the floor?
I'd like to nominate Mayor Anne Marie Brooks.
Can we get a second for that? And maybe we should ask how you feel about that.
I will accept that, yes.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, well, congratulations.
Thank you,
And
I
then-
think.
We always say congratulations in the beginning. And then you'll be with Adriana, we'll work with you. Thank you very much for taking that on.
Thank you.
So that brings us to discussion items. We have had, all of our towns have had several meetings with some of our legislators, our congresswomen, some people from the Florida Department of Environmental Emergency Management. Mayor Gaddis and I and Mayor Rector were in Tallahassee, so we're all going to have some discussions on how those things went. So Adriana, I know we're putting you on the spot. Now, you had a meeting with the Chief of Staff from Congressman Luna's office. Can you tell us a little bit about that discussion and why we were having that? You want the box? There we go.
Thank you. So last week, myself, Mike McLaughlin, and our building official, Rob Peebles, met with Bill Christian, the Chief of Staff from Representative Luna's office, and his assistant. And we had a little discussion about what problems we were having with our permitting process, which is pretty much standard on beaches. We let him know that the 50% rule needs to be looked at again. The NFIP program needs to be overhauled. They had no good answers for us. And we also let them know that the community rating system, the CRS program, needs to be overhauled as well, because it's not working for our communities. It's a hindrance to our community. It's a rating system wherein if you have higher regulatory standards, a look-back period, the cumulative building permit applications over time, it harms your rating. So it offers a discount to the residents, but in cases like in our town hall, we have flood insurance, we get an $11 discount on our flood insurance. And that's, a lot of work on my end, and I'm sure all the CRS coordinators and all the beach communities, it's a lot of work and it's not a lot of benefit for the residents in terms of the financial aspect. So that's what we discussed with
Well, thank you for that.
Representative.
And we've been in discussions with Anna Paulina in her office, ever since this storm happened, and going through the step-by-steps of how these FEMA regulations on top of our normal building regulations kind of hinder this process of getting ourselves back together. So they've been receptive to that, and we've been out here several times, and we've walked them through it. And also, Anne Marie just had a meeting, and she'd like to report on that.
So Anna Paulina Luna's office coordinated a meeting for elected officials. It included the FEMA director, Cameron Hamilton, and our FDEM director, Guthrie. At the meeting, I had, there were two mayors, Mayor Rector, myself attended, and Commissioner Hoyt attended as the only elected officials. And I've said, when anyone asks me about the meeting, Anna Paulina Luna's office has been extremely helpful from day one of the hurricane. She's really pushed forward the agenda to help us in understanding the challenges that the beaches have had. I wish more of our elected officials could have attended the meeting because it was such an open dialogue meeting. They were very open to conversation, to whatever our pains were. And as we all know, we may share pains, but we have different pains. So for Madeira, when I listen to some of the pains that other communities on the beaches have, we do not share in that pain. We have maybe a larger staff, we have our in-house permitting, so our challenges have been the bureaucratic red tape. And not necessarily, we don't have an issue, or we have not found issue with the 50% rule. We've found ways to work around other things. But a couple of the takeaways that I took from the meeting, FEMA is committed to overhauling the NFIP. They have a clear understanding of the bureaucratic red tape that FEMA has in place, and they understand that there's a great need to place this process back in the hands of the state and local government, and that FEMA should not be something we fear, but should be someone who works hand in hand with us. They also talked about really understanding the root problem, understanding the systems that FEMA has that they make us follow. One of the things that I shared that day with FEMA and with FDIM is that day one, when we hit the ground running, if our professional staff could have operated like we would operate in the permitting system under any other circumstances, we would be done. There would not be a property in Madeira Beach that is waiting on a permit or a final. Everyone would have been rebuilt that could have rebuilt, and our staff is professional. They would have made those determinations on what was 50% or over and been able to make the cost adjustments on properties. It would have been a much smoother process, but because of FEMA and the fear that FEMA gives us all, it makes you fearful to do anything or move forward because there'd be retribution on the residents. And our staff has worked diligently to make sure that whatever decisions we make are not going to come back on the residents and have them punished down the road because FEMA comes in and does an audit. One of the things that they talked about was changing the computer system, that they were working on a new computer system that would allow, like Representative Luna's office, to be trained to help directly with residents as they're going through the process in getting needed funding. So we've had several residents who I've spoke with that have been approved for FEMA housing, they've been approved for FEMA aid, and then they get told, nope, you're not approved. Or they get told that they qualify for $42,000, but they can't get FEMA to write the check, which is kind of crazy, right? You get a letter saying you qualify, but then you can't get the money. So I actually gave them that day to take with a complete package from a resident who kept very good notes and information. So they were able to take that back and use that as a test to look through how a resident might, be dealing, especially older residents who are not equipped for computers, right? They don't have computers. They're not fluent in using them. So there's a challenge when you have no internet after a storm. You have people who don't use smartphones. They don't have access to a computer or how to use it, and they don't have anyone really helping them at that level. From FDIM, I only took away a couple of really important things that he talked about, and Director Guthrie has also been a great partner with all of us, I think, in looking forward in ways to help us. And he understands that the insurance in Florida is a real problem. We see it as a real problem when someone comes in to buy or to redo their home, and their 50% is $100,000, their insurance pays them $160,000, and they're supposed to be under the 50% rule. How's that possible, right? So they're working on the insurance issue. I'm sure that's a long haul, as anything would be. But he encouraged that we should all be involved in our LMS working groups, the local mitigation. And if you don't know what that is, look it up and find out and get involved, especially for us that are elected officials. That is our opportunity to really make sure our voice is heard. One of the other things that I thought was a pretty big deal that he spoke about was the 1206 program. And he does a call, I don't know if it's once a month with the mayors, Director Guthrie does. And on the calls, he had asked the city managers and the city building officials to attend Tallahassee's day for city managers to support, where he was asking for an extension of the 1206 program from the state. $12 million he asked the state to extend beyond the money that comes from FEMA, and not a single city manager or building official showed up that day to support him. I was absolutely appalled. And had I personally known that he had requested as our city manager and our building official to attend, and they could not have been there, I would have gone in their place. So I'm not privy to those calls. I'm not on them. It's a city manager call. But I do think it's a good point of conversation to ask your city manager or whoever your administrator is that sits in on those calls, you know, what they heard, and are they listening on the calls, or are they just sitting on the calls? Because there's a big difference. And that was it. It was a great, great meeting. And if you don't know Representative Luna and you haven't ever met her or had to sit down with her office, I'd encourage you to. In the course since the day of the hurricane, I mean, we call and her office is very quick to respond in helping our residents. So it's been a good partnership.
Thank you for that reporting. You're right. Congressman Luna has been to our town several times, and it seems to be really engaged. And there was some talk with the new administration that there might be some changes at FEMA.
Yes.
But at least they seem to be very open to hearing what we have to say and trying to help us get to our goal.
Yes.
And so thank you for also saying that during a situation like this, the building process is different. There are more steps and unfortunately more bureaucracy. So it's not the same as if you wanted to do a room addition to your house prior to the storm. That permit process is one thing. After the storm, putting your house together, there's a lot more hoops to jump through. So that's where some of these delays come from. So at least they're looking at that.
I'd like to also mention, I meant to say this, that the FEMA director that is in place currently, Cameron Hamilton, he's tied to our community. His parents actually live in Bel Air. And so they flooded, and they owned, I believe he said, a house in Indian Rocks also, and it flooded. So, I mean, it's kind of nice to have somebody who can firsthand feel the pain of the residents who are living on our islands and understand what they're going through. I think it really adds
100%.
to his just personal connection to us, right?
Exactly. And, you know, we talked to a lot of different legislators and representatives, and with this situation, it seemed like that office was very, it wasn't just listening, they were trying to actually see what worked, what didn't work, and really want to help with this. So
I'd agree with that, yeah.
Mayor Rector, you were at this meeting also. Is there anything that, any takeaways?
No, I think,
very well.
Yeah, Mayor Brooks covered it pretty well. I did share a few things. One is cost, the cost that we have borne here. It's really, for me, it came down to time and money, and I think for all of us, it's time and money. The cost, I pointed out that we spent $70 million total out of our own pocket in Clearwater on debris removal and, you know, all the substantial damage reports and all the assessments and all that, $70 million. Most of that we'll get back from FEMA, but you don't get it back the day you spend it. You get it back sometimes. I've heard stories where folks are still waiting on money from Katrina to be reimbursed from FEMA. And I told the director that for us, a lot of that cost was really unnecessary. I'd say millions were spent because the bureaucracy of FEMA and all the things we had to tie up and document, and it was just way overdone. And then the contractors that we hired to help us do that were not great. And I think our contractors in Clearwater, better than what I've heard your experience, some of the contractors you've had. You know, we had inaccurate reports we had to go back and our staff had to redo, but there was just millions wasted that we had to do it to be reimbursed by FEMA at some point. But it was entirely unnecessary, a lot of the expense that we bore. So we pointed out that. And then I get kicked in the shin every time I say this, but we're only 65 days away from the next hurricane season beginning. And so for me, time is of the essence. I was in Tallahassee the past 2 days and shared that with everyone I could talk about. You know, we have waited too long, in my opinion, for our legislature to address hurricane recovery. They should have done it before now. because we've got to get ready for the next one potentially coming along. And so getting things approved and helping with permitting, and we're a little bit more fortunate because in Clearwater we've got 1,800 employees, so we were able to mobilize some of those out. But our friends in Barrier Island communities do not have 1,800 employees. You've had to really rely on contractors to get all these permits out, and it's been really, really hard, as we know. So just putting that emphasis too on the time it takes, and then getting our money back, seeing if there's ways they can expedite getting that money back, because we've dug into our reserves, which were healthy and are still healthy. But if we have another rough hurricane season, we're going to be in a difficult position because we're not getting this money back fast enough from FEMA. And it's going to put us in a very tight spot if we have another rough hurricane season. Knock on wood, we don't, but we all know, we've all lived here long enough to know you can't predict what's going to happen. You need to be ready for the worst. So those are the things I shared with him, but Mayor Brooks, you were spot on. I did share with him, I had the same anecdotal experience that Mayor Brooks had. I had the FEMA director, not FEMA director, but I had someone from FEMA come to me maybe a week after, 2 weeks after Helene. And she came to my office and she said, Mayor, we really need your help. And I said, well, anything I can do to help you help our citizens, I'm glad to do it. I said, what can I help you with? And so she showed me a rejection letter. And she said, you need to help us communicate to your citizens that just because they get a rejection letter doesn't mean they're actually rejected. And she said, here's a sample letter. She says, if you look on the third page of this letter, she says, it says right here, what we really need is just more information, and this is what we need from you. And like I said, the elderly folks I've been working with, they're not going to read to the third page to see that, oh, well, we really just need more information. She says, well, it's really important to help communicate that because most people are going to get a rejection letter when they apply. And so I pointed that out. I mean, that's not the way we serve and help people after a hurricane, particularly folks, elderly, folks who are struggling emotionally. They've lost everything. And we're going to just send them a rejection letter and have them, look for the information, respond. So there are certainly lots of things that FEMA can do better to streamline it, make it more citizen-friendly. And we pointed out that those things were important too.
Well, thank you for that. Thank you for pointing out, too, that the towns, as far as debris removal and things like that, that's out of the town's pocket. So we have to have that money in place. And you're taking it from other reserves and hoping to get it replaced. So there's a lot of times I'll hear, and I'm sure everybody here has heard it, the town will pay for it. The town will pay for this or the town will pay for that. Well, the town gets its money from the resident, so right. It's you paying for it. So and that money has to be on hand. And Adriana can tell us it's taken years. She'll say to me, I'll go into the office and say, hey, we received a hurricane check, and I can't remember what it was from because it was so long ago. So it takes a while to get that money back. And as Bruce says, if this hurricane season were to give us another storm, we're still waiting for the money from the other hurricanes. So we have to have that. There's a lot of things that we have to front. So thank you for, hopefully we can expedite that through FEMA. Do any of the other mayors have anything you'd want to share along these lines? All good? I know they covered it extremely well, so it's hard to follow that up.
Well, I also met with FEMA right after Helene, and I was gobsmacked at their literature that was not helpful, that there was nothing in there. I said, I need something that's in layman's terms that people can understand. And whatever you have to do to get that to me so I can explain to the people what they need to do. And I was never able to get that job done.
Well, that's an excellent point because
Yes.
we went through that and I'm lucky enough to have our town clerk here and I keep pointing to her because she was amazing during this. We're trying to get information out every day on what the procedures are, what's happening,
Yep.
what's the latest. And it was very confusing to try to decipher all of that. So,
Especially page 3. Yeah.
right. If you got that far. So,
Yeah.
and then there's a whole lot of misinterpretation as there is. There's social media. There's the guy at 7-Eleven told me this. My dentist said this is what FEMA's doing. So we're having to debunk all of those things. But it would help on their end if it was, yes, a bullet point
Step one,
layman's
step
terms,
two,
boom,
step
boom,
three.
boom.
Yep.
Yes, most definitely, to get us all
I
back.
told them that. They don't, in corporate America, if you ever worked anywhere other than for the government, there would be an SOP, right?
Yes.
FEMA needs a playbook. They need a SOP. They need something that, because FEMA is not going to go away. It needs to be streamlined, but they need a simpler system of do A, B, C instead of take 4 steps forward, realize that they don't like it that way, and you take 10 steps back, and then you take 2 steps forward and 12 steps back. It's very convoluted. But I will also say this, and I said this at the meeting. When the storm first happened, I literally hated FEMA. I just thought this is the worst, most terrible. It's just awful. And then we had a group that came to City Hall, and I just happened to be here that day and got to sit in on the meeting. And my whole vision of FEMA changed, my whole thought process. And it went from the bureaucratic red tape of all of this data that we can't figure out to these 4 people who were sitting in our conference room having a conversation in everyday terms, talking staff through things. And I think if they had a little bit more of that on paper, it would be super helpful. But I also wanted to ask all of you, because this money thing has come up before, and we got a $6 million check from FEMA already. And we got it because our city manager and our finance department took a class, an FROC class. I had to look it up to remember what it stood for. It's the Florida Recovery Obligation Calculation through FDIM. And it was a class that they took before the hurricanes that made it so that we got an advance of money before. So we've already received $6 million of what we're going to get. We're not waiting on it. So if you haven't taken that class or don't know what it is, I would assume it would still be available to take for this coming season to be able to have that opportunity to get money up front instead of having to, like you said, Mayor Will, wait months and years.
Please
even.
share.
Yes,
could you,
I will share it. Yes, I will share it. I will share it.
So
And
thank you.
I don't know how they got it, if it was something that came, because once you get on the emails for FDIM, there's so many that come, but that was a huge help to us.
Well, thank you for that. And that's, part of the reason we're here is, to share experiences and what worked and what didn't work and something that worked for you. And now we can all hopefully take advantage of in the future. I don't see Robin out there, I was going to say.
No, I was looking
Nice
for him
job,
because
but-
I was going to ask him
Right.
to elaborate on it a little bit, but.
Okay, well, excellent. All right, then we'll shift gears a little bit. We are also in the early stages of our legislative session. So this is when all of our senators and our reps are in Tallahassee, and they are proposing new bills and laws and things that'll affect us. Several of us have been to Tallahassee several times this session already. Dave and I and Bruce just came back. So Dave was going to speak a little bit about what bills they're proposing and what kind of effects they'll have on our communities.
Thank you, Mayor Will. As the mayor mentioned, we were in Tallahassee last week, and there were a couple of bills that I was focusing on. One of them was SB 1080, and the other one was SB 1118. They both address land use in at the municipal level. Once I got there and started digging into everything, I was actually shocked at what the trend is in Tallahassee right now. It's worse than I've ever seen. We always say that we stand up for home rule, and I saw some of the greatest assaults on the municipal level and the county level that I've ever seen. The overall legislative trend is moving to centralize power at the state level, especially in land use, housing, and construction. These bills broadly reflect preemption of local decision-making, privatization of review and inspection services, mandated approvals, and reduced local checks and balances. financial and legal penalties for municipalities that don't comply. I asked my city attorney, Randy Moore, to give me something just concerning all of the various bills that are going to impact us in one way or the other. It was really bad. It was 29 pages is what he sent me. I mean, whenever I say assault, I'm not kidding. So rather than boring you with 29 pages of all these bills, what I did is I tried to categorize them and just do a quick review of what I think is probably the most important and items that will impact us the most. The first category is restricting local control over building and development processes. We've got House Bill 287 reduces local autonomy by only requiring a sewage treatment and disposal system application to actually get a permit. So they're automatically handed a permit. There's no review process whatsoever. If you apply, you get it, and if not, then there's penalties. HB 695 expands the role of private providers in building inspections, limits local building officials' oversight, and penalizes local jurisdictions for delays or resistance. In other words, it's going to private companies, and they get to decide. We don't get to decide. Senate Bill 838 invalidates local look-back ordinances that go beyond the state's building code. This one actually just eliminates the look-back period completely. SB 1078 and the companion bill HB 551 mandates strict deadlines for issuing fire alarm permits with financial penalties for local delays. Most of us don't have the manpower to do an instant permit approval, but that's pretty much where the direction that they're taking us. Then there's the next category is eroding municipal land use authority. SB 1080, which I spoke against in the Senate Committee of Community Affairs, and House Bill 579 limits how cities can manage zoning and hearings, aiming to expedite development approvals. SB 1118 and House Bill 1209 requires administrative approval, not public hearings, for some developments, even if they conflict with local comprehensive plans. HB 943, this is an update to the Live Local Act, severely limits local discretion on density, height, and zoning for affordable housing tied to religious institutions. So if you've got a church-owned property and you want to put a big high-rise right in the middle of one of our beach communities, if this bill passes, there's nothing we can do about it. It just happens. HB 409, Adaptive Reuse Initiative, forces cities to allow multifamily housing in zones traditionally limited to commercial and industrial with minimal local input. Again, where's our voice? It's just an all-out assault. The next category is limiting local impact fees and development regulations. There's a couple of bills out there that impose financial penalties on local governments for delays in issuing address and parcels info post-platting. There's another couple of companion bills that restrict cities from imposing art-related fees or exceeding phase-in caps on impact fees. So if you're trying to maintain that look and feel of your beautiful community, and there's certain things that you require to make it look and feel, blend in with your community, can't do that anymore. Restricting fee, there's a SB 180 restricts fee increases and additional review procedures after storm declarations, limiting municipal response flexibility. So we can't change anything because we had a storm. We're supposed to keep it the same, and at the same time work within FEMA's policies. It's almost impossible. So where normally you would just handle permitting pre-storm, post-storm, you may need to change some things just to be able to handle the sheer volume. Can't do that anymore. Shifting local government powers to the state. The couple of bills phase out community redevelopment agencies, or CRAs, and bar new ones after 2025. Let's see what else we got here. Local housing autonomy. SB 84 and HB 247 preempt city regulations on housing for agricultural workers. Doesn't so much impact us, but that's just another way of getting their foot in the door. SB 184, HB 247 requires cities to permit accessory dwelling units in all single-family home zones. That means if there's you want to put a smaller home behind your home, the city doesn't have any say-so. It's all about jamming as many people in here as they possibly can. HB 401 allows hybrid rental subdivisions to bypass certain zoning and land use restrictions. HB 701 prohibits discrimination among housing types when awarding local housing funds. Limiting municipal financial flexibility. SB 1196 and companion bill HB 503 freezes local business tax rate increases and caps annual revenues. So wherever you're at, if these bills pass, you're stuck. You can't collect any more business tax. Even if more businesses come, the only way to get around this is to actually lower the tax every time a new business. I don't even know what the purpose of that is. Why would they want to cap business tax?
Control?
Sorry?
Control, just like...
Control, exactly. It's to wear us down, I believe. Caps for enterprise fund transfers, reducing financial flexibility for city-run utilities. So if you're collecting money for, let's just say, cable television, I think everyone gets a little piece of that. Well, you're not allowed to just shift it around and be flexible with it. You have to have a plan, and you have to stick with it, and it's their money. It's not our money. And finally, the uniform utility rates, which is SB 202 HB 11. What that one does, it says if you provide utility to a neighboring community, let's say water, for example, you can't charge more for that community than you charge for your own community, even though it may cost more to provide that service to the neighboring community. Again, I don't know where they're going with all this other than to destroy us. Finally, the last category is imposing state-level timeliness penalties and approvals. Multiple bills penalize cities for failing to act within short deadlines. Permit fee reductions, automatic approvals, and limited reviews. These timelines shift risk and liability away from developers and private inspectors and towards local officials, even when those officials have limited authority under the new laws. So, as you can see, it's kind of grim with what's going on in Tallahassee right now. The big push is to jam as many people in our area as we can, and we have little to no say-so whatsoever about it. What I did learn is that if one of these bills goes in front of a committee, they've already contacted everyone on that committee and gotten the majority yes. So you go and you speak. If you're fully against, it's not going to go anywhere. I think the only recourse is to scrutinize the bill heavily and offer suggestions and sing their praise for doing what they're doing, because whenever you go in there with a speech like what I did that strictly opposes a certain bill, they don't want to hear it. They just go to the wayside and continue to vote yes. So yeah, that's my grim outlook on on this year's session.
Well, thank you for that short summary of what's going on up there. Unfortunately, it is not a short summary, and we've been going to Tallahassee for many years now, and the people who are lobbyists are telling us that they've never seen it this bad before as far as preemption goes. So a preemption bill preemption is a legal doctrine to where a higher level of government, the legislature, can eliminate the authority of a lower form of government, our cities. So if you can't sleep at night and you want to read these bills, a preemption bill always has the phrase prohibits local governments in it. So, there's your red flag. So local governments are made up of the locals. That's our residents. So it's your own people. So they're prohibiting you from having a voice in determining the direction of your town. You want to go to Bel Air Beach or Reddington Beach or Madeira Beach, and we're similar, but still we're all different. And that is because of the people of those communities would like it to see it go in that direction. So that your voice, your ability to be part of that discussion is being eliminated in a preemption bill where you said that the authority is centralized to Tallahassee. And anybody who's been throughout our state knows that it's very different from the Panhandle to Key West, all over our state. So the one size fits all doesn't work. So it's not whether we're for something or against something. It's just we would like to be part of that discussion and would like you to be part of that discussion. So when you talk to your legislators, I like to ask them, what problem exists right now that this bill is going to solve, and who benefits from it? And where is the citizen initiative for this bill? We didn't ask for this bill. We're not saying I need help in this area. So why is this, where is this coming from? So just please to be aware and be involved. You hear all the time the system is broken and corrupt, but you still have to participate. And we have to somehow educate our residents so they know what's going on and they can participate and know who their rep or their senator is so they can call them and say, hey, I like this idea or I don't like this idea. Please be part of that solution. Mayor, did you have anything to? Dave covered that pretty well.
I think you covered that fantastic.
Yeah, I would just like to add that I think the overall goal, the big push this year is for mass development. And they don't want anything getting in their way of making it happen. The problem with standardizing rules of development is that every one of our communities will lose its self-identity. There's a reason why you chose the town that you live in. Maybe you wanted to be in a beach community that had restaurants and bars that you could just walk down the street to. Maybe you chose a certain beach community because it was quiet and had no businesses. Maybe you chose another one because cars weren't allowed to park in the street. It had pristine yards and everybody's house was nicely painted, and it's just a beautiful area. As these bills pass, every day you lose a little bit more of that. And so pretty soon, they'll all look the same. We won't be able to see our beaches. We'll have big buildings in the way and won't have the infrastructure to support it. And so it's imperative that we have a voice. Unfortunately, a handful of mayors going to Tallahassee is not enough. What I've learned is we have to get more residents involved. And, I'm just about ready to hire some buses and take everybody with me the next time I go, because we have to stand up and show them that it's very easy to ignore a mayor or a city manager because we're still only one person whenever you get to Tallahassee. But if a whole town shows up, it's a different story. So just some things to think about. And that's all I've got.
Well, it's an excellent point. We say the whole town. Remember somewhat recently, there was a situation where they're going to put pickleball courts and golf courses in all the state parks. And all across our state, there was a big uproar against that. And then they nixed it. So there's a great example of saying something and getting involved, and that made a difference. So please, with the other mayors, if you could, on your websites, and maybe you already do, list who our governor is, who our congresswoman is, who our senator, our reps are, and their contact information. Let's connect the reps to the residents so that they know who they can talk to and say, listen, we would just like the locals to be able to govern themselves. You got, any other mayors have anything to add? Or say?
I'd like you to share your short summary with me via email if you can.
You talking about mine?
Yes.
Yes, I can do that.
Well, you did all the work.
Or would you
There's no
prefer the
need for us.
29 pages?
I know Randy Mora, and I know how verbose he is, so I would rather not
It's a
have
lot of
that.
words.
Yes,
Yes. I'll be more than happy to.
thank you.
Well, there was one, there weren't any short-term rental bills this session. So how about that? But there are plenty of other preemptions to take its place. So unfortunately, that's, as Dave says, we will lose our identity that way. Is that it for everybody? Okay, then we will, are there anybody here representing any of our representatives? Somebody, aides or anybody for legislative report? Nope. Okay. Well, then we'll move on to city events. We'll start with Anne Marie.
So in Madeira, this weekend is our seafood festival. Runs Friday through Sunday, and we are kicking it off tomorrow night with a Gather for Grouper Fish Fry that is co-sponsored by the Pinellas Beaches Chamber. I hope you will all come out and attend. We have a lot of vendors for the actual John's Pass Seafood Festival, and it should be a great time. Some really good music, and that's it. 2 things. That's all we're doing.
Madeira always throws a good party.
Listen, if you're going to live on the beach, you should know how to throw a good party.
All right. In Reddington Beach on April 5th, one of our groups, Santa's Angels, will be hosting their Havana Nights fundraiser party, which is always a great time in our Friendship Park. So everyone is welcome. So please come on out if you'd like to participate.
In Bel Air Beach, it's all quiet.
Well, in Indian Rocks Beach, the Easter Bunny's coming to town on April the 12th, and it will be held in Kolb Park from 9 a.m. to noon. And it's almost like a wrestling match, watching these little guys, because you have to be under 12 years old, go around and snatch up all the eggs. It's very entertaining. And on April 26th, we'll be having the Taste of IRB. So if you want to get a taste of all of our restaurants, that will be April 26th from 3 to 9 p.m. That's it.
In Indian Shores, the Clearwater Marine Aquarium and Sea Turtle Conservancy is having a workshop about the problems of life on sea turtle nesting and the best practices. And I don't have the other towns receive this. And it's a workshop. It's going to be, and it's actually for, it's a free workshop, and it's for code enforcement personnel, city planners, engineers, builders, architects, or other lighting professionals who may benefit from learning about wildlife and friendly lighting. And as you know, the lighting on the beaches has always been a big issue. And if you would all, I can give a copy of this if you haven't received it, for anybody in your office that would be interested. I know we've always had a lot of information given to us about turtle lighting to make sure that we're following the federal and county issues. But anyway, it's April 23rd at Indian Shores in our community room from 1 to 4:30. And if I can give it for distribution to the mayors.
Sure, distribute it on our email list, the Big
Yes.
C email list.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
North Reddington Beach is pretty quiet. Just try to come visit our restaurants like Sweet Sage and such. It'd be great.
All right. Well, thank you. This is your first meeting, right?
It is, yeah.
Well, welcome.
Thank you.
Excellent. All right. Then with that, is there a motion to adjourn? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody. And please take some food. I can't eat all of it, but I'll try.